What's up? What's happening? Welcome in on a competition Wednesday. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. That Odyssey app where you can hear Commanders and Eagles on some stations tomorrow night, I think. Westwood 1, although it might be blacked out here in D.C. But either way, Ross Tucker's going to be on the call. He's going to join us coming up at 5 o'clock. What a tease that was, Anthony. Professional start to the show. Just absolutely killing it.
Typical Wednesday start, you know?
Yeah, just, hey.
Something.
We picked up 2 yards. It's 2nd and 8. Ross Tucker's going to join us at 5 o'clock. We're pretty pumped about that. Special Wednesday edition of Never Read the Comments coming up at 4:30. So if you're usually a 4 o'clock hour listener and you get home at 5 and you're always like, man, that Never Read the Comments thing y'all typically do at 5:30 on Thursdays. Sounds really fun. You get to hear it coming up in half an hour. But we start with breaking news. I said breaking news.
Breaking news. Oh, snap, news is broken. Breaking news.
Brian Robinson's playing, boys and girls. Yeah! Hey, Chris Russell, who's looking at me very confused. Did you hear Brian Robinson is playing? Chris has got a big smile on his face. I thought he was going to come in here. He's not.
Oh, there he is.
You see him walking? He was staring at me like, why are you yelling?
It looks lost.
He does look lost. Sometimes that feels a little more metaphorical. Sometimes it feels literal with our good friend the Rooster. Anyway, the point is, Brian Robinson does not have an injury designation going into the game. He was a full participant today in practice. He is listed not on the injury report, full go. He is set. That's the good news. The bad news is Marshon Lattimore's not playing. Boo. Or maybe even, aw, rats. Either way, that's going to cause some problems. The other thing, the in-between, is the top 3 tackles on the team are all listed as questionable. That is, Andrew Wiley, Brandon Coleman, and Cornelius Lucas are all listed as questionable. I would assume all 3 of them are available. I assume all 3 of them can play. Maybe you go back to the rotation for Lucas and Coleman just for the sheer preservation. Maybe it's Coleman full time. We're not going to go till into the game tomorrow. Obviously, expect Trent Scott to be active as well. He's been active even when he is the 4th tackle for a lot of games this year. They use him as kind of an extra guy, extra tight end in some heavier personnel groupings. But expect Andrew Wiley to be back, hopefully. Expect Brandon Coleman to play through what he's playing through, and I expect Cornelius Lucas to be available. Out tomorrow also is Austin Seibert. Zane Gonzalez will be kicking for the 2nd straight week. And then the other guy that's out is Nick Bellore, who has been really, really good. It's funny because I think most people still associate him with those penalties against the Giants in his first game as a Commander, but he's actually been the special teams demon that he has been, or he was hyped up to be and was brought in to be. So they'll be without one of their best special teamers against the Eagles tomorrow night. Eagles have everyone back, including Jordan Mailata, I believe, is ready to go. He was very, very coy earlier in the week about his status, but he's been a full participant in practice. You don't go full not playing. So I would expect Jordan Mailata to get out there unless they just feel like, hey, it's too risky on a short week. We want to get him a full week of practice. But we are awaiting the Eagles injury report. Actually, Anthony, can we double check and see if the Eagles have officially put out their injury report?
Yeah, I was going on Twitter right now, actually.
Okay.
Check that.
Or you think they're twitter.com/Eagles?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's what they are. Injury report. We got status. That's Wednesdays. We have game statuses. Come on, Eagles. What are we doing? Devontae Smith, limited participant. Nakobe Dean, full. Goddard, full. Huff, full. Mailata, full. Slay, full. They're supposed to 12 minutes ago. We have activated tackle Jordan Mailata from injured reserve. So, yeah. Eagles are back on the injury front. So, what does this all mean for the game? That's the updates. Here's the analysis. For the Eagles, it means, God, they're disgusting offensively. I mean, they got dudes at almost literally every position playing certainly top half football, if not top 10, if not top 5. Wide receiver ones, there ain't a lot better in the league than A.J. Brown. We know that Devontae Smith, when it comes to wide receiver twos, one of the absolute best in the league. He'd be a wide receiver one on both teams, or on most teams. Dallas Goedert, top 10 tight end probably in the NFL, especially as a pass catcher. He's actually also been, I was looking at some of the next-gen stats this morning. They're averaging a lot more yards per run, and their success rate and everything is higher when he is on the field. So he's actually playing pretty good, well-rounded football this year. Saquon, it's he or Derrick Henry is the offensive player of the year, non-quarterback division in the NFL. That's how good he's been. Jalen, he's actually probably technically the weak link. We can circle back to him in a second. But he does some things very, very, very well. He's a good football player. He's just a very unique football player. And that wouldn't work a lot of places. Thankfully for them, he works there. And then across the offensive line, Mailata, all-pro. Landon Dickerson, top 5 guard in the league. Cam Jurgens, young center. He's not as good as Jason Kelce was, but he's a good player. Mekhi Becton. Anthony, you remember Mekhi Becton?
Yep, the Jets drafted him, right?
Yeah, he just absolutely stunk. Guess what he is now?
Right guard?
He's a right guard for the Eagles, and he's killing people.
Yeah.
He's like 370 pounds, and he just is a road grader.
Mm-hmm.
I literally saw him just run over a couple dudes last week, and you're like, oh, that would be terrible. And like against a guy like Johnny Newton or Daron Payne, who's a little undersized, like it's about quickness versus power. Oh my God, what a mismatch that is, and we'll see which way it favors. But, whew, Mekhi Becton, and then Lane Johnson's going to the Hall of Fame as a right tackle. So outside of like slot receiver, where they've got John Dotson, and Jalen Hurts, who is up and down but is playing very up of the last couple weeks, like this is an elite offense. And the thing about how they play is it's very isolation basketball. And the reason that it works is because when you play isolation basketball, if you've got Steph Curry or LeBron James or, pick your superstar, and you can create one-on-one matchups, they're going to win them more times than not. If you are not one of those teams, you don't have those players, you're going to need to win with schematics, which is kind of how Washington operates. But because they've got so many good players, because Jalen Hurts throws outside the numbers really, really well, and because his propensity to hold on to the football, where he has the longest time to throw in the NFL, at 3.11 seconds. That is like a full half second faster than you would ever coach anybody to hold the ball. But because that is covered by all that offensive line talent, he gets away with it. And, by the way, some of that is a boost in number because he does run and occasionally run to throw. So he's back there for a long time, and then you go chase him, and then he starts taking off running, and if he finds someone down the field, he'll loft the ball to him and let them do the rest from there, but he's also a very dangerous scrambler. He's got twice as many explosive runs this year already as he did all of last year per next-gen stats. So, yeah. The good news is, on the other side of it, Washington can now, with Brian Robinson back, keep that offense off the field a lot more than they did the last couple of weeks, where they had a lot more trouble sustaining drives. They also do not play with the discipline that St. Pittsburgh does defensively, so Jaden as a runner should be back in play. And so there's a lot to look forward to, I think, offensively that has high potential. But let's not get it twisted. When it comes to the rosters, Philly has the way better roster. But Washington, I think, has the significantly better, I won't say significantly better, has the better coaching staff. They use their talent better. They are less susceptible to streakiness. But at the same time, the streak that Philly is on right now is a heater. And Washington has an enormous, gargantuan task on their hands tomorrow night. We're going to continue to talk about it, not just today, but tomorrow. And obviously we'll talk about what happened coming up 4 o'clock on Friday, right at the start of the show. Ian Eagle will join us. He's calling the game with Ross for Westwood One. Ross Tucker joining us at 5 o'clock today. So we got the preview, we got the review, we got everything in between right here on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Never read the comments special edition on a Wednesday here on this short week. Coming up in about 10 minutes from right now, 11 minutes from right now. But want to let you hear from Dan Quinn, who first gave some of the injury updates that you heard, but also made a special announcement today as he got his press conference started.
All right, guys, I'll get rolling with you today. Captains, offensively, Ertz, and defensively, Samer still, and on the special teams, J-Mac. And all these guys, man, they bring a lot to our team in lots of different ways and standards and competing. And so we're all pumped to see these guys get this op. I'll rule 3 players out. That will be Ballore, linebacker Nick Ballore, cornerback Marshon Lattimore, and kicker Austin Seibert. All the rest of the guys practiced, and we'll huddle up tonight and see how they do. But those are the 3 that won't play, ruling them out today.
So we told you about the injuries. Zane Gonzalez is going to kick. Someone else will run down really fast on special teams and like a maniac and hopefully bring some energy and make some tackles. They haven't had a problem with as Dan Quinn says, a deep crew in that department this year, although Ballore's been very, very good. And last but not least, not having Marshon Lattimore sucks. Like that just it prevents them from doing some of the things they want to do. And that is an unfortunate reality of where they are. It is still worth it to have made that trade. He is someone that they like. Thing is with the hamstring, if you re-injure it, it's basically start the clock over. And so if he were to play 2 quarters and injure it in the third, you got 2 quarters, cool, but then you're talking about another month. And by that point, you're almost at the end of the season. Where if you wait 1 more, yeah, he's missed 2 games, but you don't miss 4 or 5. 2 games for the Commanders. And in part, he might only be missing them because it's a Thursday. He might have been ready by Sunday, but they're playing on Thursday, and such is the breaks. I love the fact that they are making Zach Ertz a captain for this game. This will be Ertz's first time with the Commanders playing in Philadelphia, of course, as you probably don't need reminding that Ertz has been or was a long, long time Eagle. That is the franchise that, I don't know that Zach Ertz is the Hall of Famer, but he's pretty close. Like he's a name that'll make like the quarterfinalist list and some of those lists and then never quite get in. But he's had that kind of career. And if he went in, he'd go in as an Eagle because those were his best years and that's where he was at the peak of his powers. But I think it just goes to show too that like, yeah, he had a really bad drop last week, but who he is on a day-to-day basis and what he's brought to this team is worth honoring. DQ is like, yeah, this is the week. And I think there's been some intentional choices with some of these, whether guys facing former teams or, guy steps up, makes a play. Guys, obviously, you're doing stuff behind the scenes that maybe we don't even know about. I'd be curious to know, like, what the impetus was for Sainer still to get it this particular week. So, maybe it's the way Mikey kept his cool after Pickens lost his mind. Maybe that's that, that plus the other ways in which he shows toughness is something that Dan Quinn wants to highlight. But no matter what it is, those are your captains for this week's game. Obviously, the bigger thing in there is the injuries and Brian Robinson and kind of what his status is. So Dan Quinn asked about his starting running back and the, his wellness this week and for this game.
Yeah, today was the day to get speed, and so that was good sign to see him and the rest of his teammates really get running. It was a kind of a ramp up, John, as you go. Think of a slower on Monday, a little faster yesterday, but today's the day you hit the marks to go up, and so he did a good job with that.
So that's good. Hamstring, hey, as long as it goes well, apparently it went well enough that they're not even bothering with a questionable. They're just flat out saying, like, he's playing. So that's obviously good. As for some of the other key questions that we have, there was a lot of mistakes that were made in last week's game, and some of them have been fairly well highlighted. Obviously, we'll talk about it. Never read the comments because it seems like that's all anyone wants to talk about is like Benjamin St. Juste. What do you do with him? If it was up to many of you watching and listening, you'd cut him and probably throw him in the Potomac because that's how many of you feel. I don't think that's a rational response, but sports radio, not exactly where we go for rational responses. But also a guy like Olamide Zaccheaus, or as he's known to Shane and Oxon Hill, Anthony, Olamide. Olamide Zacchaeus.
What'd you say about him?
As he's known to Shane and Oxon Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Anthony's over there monitoring something else. I shouldn't have put Anthony in a bad spot. That was a bad job by me.
All good.
Has he started talking yet?
So they're finishing up the vote right now.
Oh, okay.
And
We're-
then I think they'll get to it.
We're at a place where we're having to watch the Senate today because Steve Daines is going to talk about the old logo and the Blackfoot logo, and I don't want to have to care about what Steve Daines says as I do my sports talk radio show day before the biggest game of the year from a divisional rival standpoint. And yet here we are. Anyway, apropos of none of that, Olamide Zacchaeus, he buffed a couple punts. And it'd be really easy on a roster with Luke McCaffrey and Mike Sainristil, who both can return kicks. Jamison Crowder's somewhere in the wings, recovering from his hamstring injury. I don't know how hurt he actually still is, or whether they just are like, we don't really have a roster spot for you, so just stay put for right now. But they could make that move. There's other guys on this team that could return punts. So what's his personal philosophy on giving a guy like Zacchaeus a second chance at not only in the game, but to continue to be the guy moving forward?
Well, I think you have to look at the whole body of work in terms of the work ethic, what you've seen before. And so, when you're going through it, you want to make sure there's not a pattern that comes up. And if that's the case, then it's somebody else's role to do that in punt return. But there's also a lot of work and trust that's been put into that. And so that's really where I look at it. And I'm at the top of everything, like protecting the team. And so that's where
So as long as he thinks he's still working hard and still, doing the right things to get it corrected, he's going to say, like, there's a reason that guy was our number one pick at that spot. And, obviously by nature, if you pick someone else, you're downgrading. But I think the thing in protecting the team is you got to protect the football. Like, we know that ball is life and that you have to protect it at all costs. And, you guys used to scream about, oh, God, who was the punt returner who used to fair catch it all the time? Who was here a couple years ago. So forget about it.
Dax Mill?
Yeah. Bet you would have wished you had Dax Milne on Sunday because at least he would have caught it. But, that's kind of the thing. And a lot of coaches just take that philosophy to its Dax max, if you will, just as long as they catch it. But I think OZ gives you more than that. He's a guy that makes good decisions, gets positive yardage in the eyes of the coaches. But I think he has caught some inside the 5 this year. I don't know. I'd rather have Crowder back there if they can find a roster spot for him. I kind of like to see what Sainristil could do, to be honest. But I think he's become too valuable on defense. I'd mess around with McCaffrey back there, but they see this every day, and Larry Izzo's really smart, and Dan Quinn's really smart. So if they think OZ is the best guy, I just kind of have to go. They got the information on that one, but I guarantee you if there's any more issues with ball handling, then maybe that equation changes a little bit because they're not stubborn. They're not easily moved, but that's different, and being resistant to overreacting is different than completely stubborn, and I think they've mostly been on the right side of that equation this season in a lot of different facets, and they deserve the benefit of the doubt because of that. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, a very special Wednesday edition of Never Read the Comments. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980, where you can watch the show every single day for all 3 hours. You can also watch our show on demand in the pieces that we cut up and post. You can leave comments on them. You can also do the same on the pieces part. We don't stream live on my YouTube page, but the highlights are there at Craig Hoffman. Full episodes of Take Command are at the Team 980 and at 1067 The Fan. And all that commenting that you guys do on the digital video side, and I've started to include, by the way, some more of our social media comments as well in this segment, winds up in...
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen. Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
So that's how it goes. Whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, most of these from YouTube. We've got a couple TikToks in there. Today, we take your comments, we read them, we react here on the Hoffman Show. So, with that said, Anthony, are you ready to go on this here edition of Never Read the Comments?
Yes, sir.
So, you know, like we always start with, or we always like to start with an amuse-bouche. Just something a little different, something a little off the wall before we dive into the substance of everything. At Jason Marr 8 commented on the most recent episode of, or I guess what was at the time the most recent episode of Take Command. Our Eagles preview, I think, is up now. But he goes, "What's up, boys? Go Commanders. I had a dream last night. Logan broke into my house. Blank was wild."
You said Logan?
Yeah. Broke into his house. I kind of want to call Logan and read him that comment.
That is a little concerning.
Yeah, I don't know what other, like, were you watching a crime TV show listening to Take Command before bed? How does that happen?
Yeah, that's a little spooky. I mean, Halloween season did just conclude, so I don't know.
I feel like Logan could pull off a pretty scary Halloween costume if he wanted to. He's a big bearded man.
Yeah, I think he could also pull off dressing up as Michael Myers. He has the build and like stature. Pretty tall guy.
He's all 6'5" of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking as we were walking out of the stadium on Sunday. And he's like, yeah, walking around here, just, getting a lot of these crowds, and it's hard to get anywhere. I'm like, yeah, this is the place you're most famous on the planet, and you're not exactly someone who blends in. He's like, yeah. And then, like, half the time he's walking with Smoot and Santana and B. Mitch, and those dudes are getting flagged by everyone. It's like, oh, the big white guy, that's Logan. Right. So, yeah, that's where we start today. What's up, boys? Go Commanders. I had a dream last night. Logan broke into my house. Jason, keep sharing your dreams, and I hope you have better dreams. All right, let's dive into the football of it all. We emptied the Steelers notebook in our 1st and 10 segment, Steelers Commanders, 1st and 10 on Monday. And one of my least favorite commenters, Brandon Crittenden, 3939. I don't know why I keep giving him attention, Anthony. He just consistently is bad. Some people, if you just leave consistently bad comments, I'm eventually just going to mute you. So, Brandon might be on notice, but for now he's making the segment because I thought I want to answer his question. I want to respond to his criticism.
Is he getting an asterisk next to his name?
Yeah, kind of, for our tier rankings. I think that's a good way to put it. I asked the question in our 1st and 10, like, how much different is the game really if Ertz is credited with the first down, they kick a game-winning field goal? Like, obviously, it's enormously different in the standings. The win is everything at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how you get it, beg, borrow, cheat, steal, get the dub, get out of town, cool. Or at this point, protect home turf, cool. You're 8-2. You're in first place going to Philly. Everyone feels better. All that stuff is true. But he goes, how much different? What are you talking about, man? You're the moral victory king. Here's the thing. Some of y'all just want, if they win, everybody's awesome. Jaden's the MVP. Dan's coach of the year. Adam's executive of the year. Everybody's the greatest. Give them all raises and lifetime contracts. And if they lose, then everybody sucks. Everybody needs to get fired. And there is no nuance or room for analysis. But the thing is, I realize that is a very small portion of the fan base. And if you want to be obtuse enough to out yourself as one of those people on the internet, that's fine. We'll highlight you and call you out, and everyone can laugh at you. Because it's a very silly thing. Because here's the other part of this. It's not that the win or loss doesn't matter. It's just that when we evaluate the game itself and we say this was good or this was bad, that doesn't change based off of the end result. Someone can make a good play in a blowout loss. It doesn't mean it meant anything significantly, but the play itself, which is the way that you break down film, which is what we were doing in the video that this comment was left on, or as we evaluate the performance, which is what we were doing in the video this comment was left on, like, hey, so-and-so did some good things. So-and-so did some bad things. This was heinously bad. This was ridiculously good. I wish they did more of it. None of that is described as moral wins or losses. It's just good or bad. The thing itself exists in a way that is good or bad. And being able to say that out loud doesn't mean that I am the moral victory king. I'm not like, and because of that, they should feel good about losing. No, it's like, hey, so-and-so did let me try to think of someone who did a particularly good job. It's kind of hard in that. Terry McLaurin. Terry had an awesome game against Pittsburgh. He should feel good about that if he wants to. But at the end of the day, they lost. So Terry can still have had a good game without being like, and Terry, he should not feel like a loser today. No, he's a part of the team that lost. Whatever feeling like a loser is to Terry, he's going to feel that. So you and your moral victory nonsense, bye-bye. See ya. You have the asterisk from the tier rankings. Remind me of that next time I get annoyed by one of his comments, Anthony.
I got you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Dion Wells, 2859, responding to our talk about complimentary football. And he said, well, it's the defense's job to get off the field also, and allowing a team over 50% on third down falls on them, not the offense. Here's the thing. It's almost like we have extensive evidence that the two are related. That perhaps if the offense can sustain drives and the defense is fresher and has to face less possessions, there's a better chance that they perform better on third downs, which are late in drives. And if you are tired, it's probably harder to play that third down better. And perhaps if you were fresher, you would play first and second down better and not have as difficult of a task on third down. We know this based off of the 104 or 105 year history of the NFL. Like, we know that's how this works. That complementary football is a thing. We know it based off human physiology and it's like sports science. Fatigue is real. And so if you are well rested, you will perform better. And so, yes, ultimately is the defense's job to do the defense's job, but to pretend like the defense wasn't affected by the offensive not holding up their end of the bargain on Sunday is, I think, inaccurate analysis. And again, it's not about moral wins or moral victories or whatever. It's just it's analysis. It's evaluating what happened. And the reality is the offense really let the defense down on Sunday in a way that they really haven't all season long. Continuing on Never Read the Comments here on the Hoffman Show, where we, read the comments. Our pal Mitch Tischler was with us yesterday, and we talked about both the offensive line and we got into the defensive backs as well. So we'll get to the Benjamin St. Juste of it all in just a moment. But Joseph Boone, J2T, he brought up a point, Ant, that I wanna touch on because I talked about how I didn't think Brandon Coleman played particularly well. And he goes, Brandon Coleman was not bad against Pittsburgh. Stop it. How bad was the receivers for dropping easy passes? If Zach Ertz caught that slant route and got a first down, it would have been over for Pittsburgh. Scored before Pittsburgh scored their last TD. One, not necessarily. That would not have sealed the game, the Zach Ertz drop there in the second half. But more importantly, on the Brandon Coleman front, like, I understand on television that the only thing they show is the ball. The game is more than the ball. And this is what kind of, I think, irritates me sometimes, and it goes into the St. Juste stuff as well, is yes, when the ball is thrown at St. Juice, I am not going to for a second argue that that is a good thing for Washington. He's giving up over 100 passer rating. He's giving up a bunch of yards. Like, not good. But there's a bunch of snaps within games where, he's doing a lockdown job. That is the nature of cornerback. It's the nature of defense. You can have a really bad game where you play well on 90% of the snaps, but if those 10% are really bad, like, yikes. Defense is hard. You have to be the level, the threshold is really, really high. And obviously, like, Juice has not met that in a number of games this season. There's a bunch of others where he has, and they have been one of the best pass defenses in the league the last 6 weeks, and he was on the field for that. So, like, both things can exist. But in terms of Coleman, it's like, oh, the receivers dropped the ball. That's what happened. It's like, one, multiple bad things can happen. Two, just because you saw the receiver drop the ball doesn't mean that the offensive lineman that you weren't paying attention to didn't also have a bad day. People tend to watch the ball, which means if they don't give up 7 sacks, they think the offensive line had a good day. But how many of those balls were just a little bit off? And I'm not saying the receiver shouldn't have caught them, but they're a little bit off. They're a little bit behind. They're a little bit hot. They're a little bit ahead. A lot. Way more than Jaden is typically throwing. And you want to know why? Because the offensive line gave up pressure. Because he was under attack and under duress. Because he was sped up. Because guys like Brandon Coleman were getting bowled over, falling on their butts, thanks to Alex Highsmith on a fairly regular basis. The game is more than the ball. There's a reason that coaches say we got to watch the tape. And I think sometimes that can be an excuse. I hear you. Sometimes it's like, I don't need to watch the tape. Like, we saw what happened. Okay, fine. I didn't need to watch the tape of the St. Juice play. 3rd and 9 at the end. I saw it on the replays. He was flat-footed. Bang, bang. Party's over. Nothing else to see there. But, like, we don't spend all this time watching the tape because it's useless. And the professionals who get paid millions of dollars and want to keep those $1 million jobs to do this don't spend all the time watching the tape because it's useless. And so I just think that we have to accept that the game is more than we see on TV. It's more than the ball, and multiple bad things or good things can happen. Nothing is 100% anybody's fault in a 150 snap football game where 22 guys are on the field at all times. Steps off high horse. Steps off soapbox.
No, I think you made a lot of good facts. I think both things can be true. But if we're being honest, I think Jaden Daniels also, helped his lineman out. And I think that's the good thing about, having a guy that's mobile. I think if this is Sam Howell, probably would have had more sacks. But
dude, if Sam Howell was playing in that game against Pittsburgh, like, we're literally talking about a 9-sack day.
Yeah, it would have been a super long day. But Jaden Daniels' mobility does help those guys out. And first play that comes to mind is Coleman gets beat like a drum by Highsmith. Jaden steps up, bounces out, and then tries to, squeeze one into Luke McCaffrey on the sideline. That's a play made by Jaden Daniels. And, Brandon Coleman ends up getting beat. And
then everyone's mad at Luke for the drop, even though the ball is a little bit behind him, which, like, Luke should have caught that ball.
Yeah.
It also could have been a better ball ahead of Jaden or ahead of Luke instead of behind him, which is something Jaden has basically not done this year. And it all starts, to your point, because Coleman loses.
Yep.
Like, and that's just one play, right? What if Jaden is not hurried on the big play from his own end zone to Luke?
Yep.
Like, Jaden hits that throw all the time. He's a little bit rushed. He throws it it's 2-line drivey. There's not enough air on it. Like, again, 2 plays that just show exactly what we're talking about here. So, yeah, that's that. On the Benjamin St. Juice front, Scriva 85. You can't say he's their best corner and he's good and then ask why he's in that position. And I'm like, yeah, I can. Because he's the best that they've got. That doesn't mean that he's actually good at corner. Like, good, great, above average, any of those. He's average. And so the fact that the best they have is average is a reflection of how they decided to build this roster, the trust they have in their staff. And Usain still is ascending. Igbinoghene is like pretty average as well. Like they're all kind of in the same bucket consistently. Like who has the highest percentage of good snaps? St. Juice. Whose percentage of bad snaps are catastrophically bad? Also St. Juice, which makes him really confounding. But the thing is, he's also, I said I would have probably not put him in that man-to-man position in that spot. I would have tried to have more safety help over the top, and Mitch and I talked about that. And it's kind of like saying that, hey, he's a good zone corner. He's good at playing cover 2, playing the flat, being underneath a receiver with safety help over the top. Like, he can play that role really well. You don't say, like, oh, that's my best teacher. Well, okay, what does he teach? Math. Okay, cool. I want him to teach English today. And then, or let's flip it around. What does he teach? English. Well, I want him to teach math today. And then you don't get mad at him for messing up the Pythagorean theorem. Like, he's an English teacher. Of course he messed up the Pythagorean theorem. Anthony, pop quiz. What's the Pythagorean theorem?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
That is correct. And what is C squared? What are we measuring?
You said what are we
measuring?
The longest side.
Yeah, the hypotenuse.
Yeah, the hypotenuse. See,
in a right triangle.
I don't remember all the.
This
the
is
word.
literally the only thing I remember from geometry. I almost said geology or geography. I couldn't even remember the subject matter. But I had you fooled for a second to think I'm a big old nerd.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, I kind of am a big old nerd, but that's really all I remember is that it's a right triangle. It's the fancy term is the hypotenuse, and it's A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yeah.
And you want to know who shouldn't be teaching you about that?
You?
Correct. That is correct. Also, an English teacher.
Yes.
And so if Benjamin St. Juice is an English teacher, let's have him teach English. That's kind of what I was saying, the zone versus the man and the whole deal. William Davis, and then we get into like some specific criticism. Again, I've been critical of St. Juice. The problem is, I think for a lot of commenters, and we had someone call yesterday and try to, be a troll or whatever. Like, it's not that you can't criticize him. It's that your criticism is very, very silly, such as this. William Davis, 88-55. Bruh, 1 interception in 4 years. St. Juice is our veteran corner, not our best. The others are rookies. One, Igbenogany is not a rookie. By the way, Chigozie and Uzium got signed off their practice squad today to the Browns. Kind of low-key hate that. Wish they had elevated him because I think he's got some potential. But whatever. Cut Forbes, whatever. But back to William's comment. He goes, we need dogs. DQ said it. Lattimore says he is a dog. Terry is a dog. We need dogs, Mr. Hoffman. 1, William, you can just call me Craig. It's fine. You don't need full Mr. Hoffman. 2, BSJ is a dog. Watch him play. Watch how physical he is. Watch the way he competes. Down in, down out. The problem is it's like a fighter who's willing to take on any fight, and then he gets punched in the face sometimes. He loses. He's a dog with no ball skills. Like, that is the problem. It's not the attitude. It's not the effort. It's literally the thing, one of the elements of his job he is extraordinarily bad at. And that has been true since college. He didn't have any picks in college either. I had a TikTok comment that was like, you can take the player out of Minnesota, but you can't take the Minnesota out of the player. And I thought that was very funny. Then you got stuff like this. Buddy Love on TikTok. He'd be a great special teams player. No disrespect to special teams, but this dude has 0 ball skills and is a walking PI. The last part of this, yes, he has been a walking PI, 0 ball skills. But part of the reason that he has had trouble this year is because he lacks top-end speed. Anthony, what is the number one thing you'd want for, say, a gunner on special teams?
Some speed.
So you're saying that Benjamin St. Juice is probably not a guy who needs to play special teams?
Pretty much.
What? By the way, do you need speed and ball skills to be a safety?
A little bit.
Yeah. So why are people saying he needs to switch to safety?
I don't know. Maybe they're slower than DBs. I mean, they're slower than corners. I don't know.
I thought at first you were saying the commenters, are slower than DBs, and that was funny. That was funny. You were saying the safeties. Yeah, safeties don't need to have quite as much speed, but the best ones certainly do.
Yeah.
And you need to have ball skills for sure because you're last man back, and also he's lanky and kind of thinner body type. Not exactly the guy I want fitting runs in the middle of the field, although he does a good job of setting the edge and actually has become a pretty darn good run player. And then we had another one that was like, oh, He's a nickel. He's certainly not a CB1 or CB2. Nickel is an alignment, not a place on the depth chart. What? Again, I love the comments, but you don't have to.
I will say this to defend whoever just commented. On our initial, I guess, depth chart, we did have nickel position. Mikey Samer still, I think.
Yeah, no, we had Sanders still as the nickel, not St. Juice.
Yeah, not St. Juice. Okay.
Yeah. He can be your third outside corner. That does not make him a nickel.
Yeah.
A nickel is the guy that plays inside.
Mm-hmm.
And St. Juice actually played some nickel earlier in his career. He was okay at it, probably better suited outside. Certainly body type, much more traditionally outside, because, again, I don't necessarily want him playing the run. Let's see. What else do we got? This one I thought was funny. You know, we were talking in our meeting earlier. We had a meeting with our boss today, which is always fun. And it's okay. It's a regular meeting. We're not in trouble. But we were trying to figure out, like, who is BSJ? Like, what are some other guys that are like BSJ? I don't know if I like this, but I did find it funny. I like it. I don't know if it's accurate. I'll put it that way. Landis Mikashine, whatever your screen name is, 6492. In my opinion, BSJ is the Rex Grossman of corners. Just like Rex will guarantee you at least 2 picks a game, BSJ will give you at least 2 PIs a game. Maybe just 1 on a good day. He has his moments every once in a while, but he's frustrating to watch because he's too inconsistent. He seems to panic whenever he's getting beat on a route by the receiver, and he frequently risks getting a PI called on him. The more I think about it, the more I like it, Anthony.
I love it as well, but Rex Grossman also went to a Super Bowl. Granted, it might not have been him taking the team.
He went to the Super Bowl with the
went to the
Bears.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, like Devin Hester kick returns was more potent than that Rex Grossman
and
offense.
that defense too.
But like that's like Rex, pretty good most of the time, and then you're like, guy, why did you do that? And that is exactly the experience of watching Benjamin St. Juice. Really good most of the time, and then you're just like, but I just started to believe in you again. And then the bad thing happens. So the Rex Grossman of DBs, I kind of like that. I kind of like it. Last but not least, a couple of quick ones here. Actually, we don't even have time because we got Ross Tucker coming up. But we did have someone say, Craig, please make, in response to me getting petty about Shane and Oxon Hill again last week, Craig, please make this an in-season segment, Petty Time with Craig. Should we just lean all the way in, Anthony?
Maybe for one of our comments in the comment section, I think we should save a space for one.
Okay, I think that's good. So you just have to come back to never read the comments next week. Normally Thursdays at 5:30. Obviously today a little bit different with the game tomorrow. Appreciate y'all commenting at Craig Hoffman at the Team 980 on YouTube. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, Ross Tucker joins us talking Eagles, Commanders, Thursday Night Football. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hour number 2 starts like this.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
On the line is Odyssey NFL insider Ross Tucker. Insider calls are brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. Mayo game day. Be delicious. And on top of being our Odyssey Sports NFL insider, Ross is calling the game with our guy Ian Eagle tomorrow night for Westwood One. Ross, what's up, man? How are you?
Craig, fantastic. Fired up for tomorrow night. Should be epic. You know, I knew I was doing this game months ago, and candidly, I didn't know it would be this big of a game. I'm so fired up. Although I will say this, everybody this whole August and July, when they would ask me who my surprise team would be in the NFL, I didn't really know who to say, so I would just say the Commanders, just because all the guys, all the quarterback gurus that had come on my show, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast before the draft, they just raved and raved about Jaden Daniels. So I guess I was like, you know what? Maybe Jaden Daniels and the Commanders can be this year's C.J. Stroud and the Texans, and looks like I was right. I mean, it's kind of happening.
It certainly has. I spent a lot of the summer telling people, like, hey, like, it could happen, but don't get your hopes up too high. Like what CJ did is pretty unprecedented. To think it'll happen 2 years in a row, it seems unlikely, but unlikely is not impossible, Ross, and thus here we are. Yet, Jaden coming off of, like, saying it's his worst game of the season, at least since Tampa, like, okay, fine. He wasn't amazing. Like, he's been in every other game. It's not like he was bad. But the one element that I thought was really interesting is the lack of rushing yardage in that game for Jaden, because it's been such a huge part of keeping this offense on schedule, extending drives and letting them do what they do. Do you think what Pittsburgh was able to do to him is repeatable by the Philadelphia Eagles tomorrow night?
I do. I think a couple things. Part of me wonders just how different, Jaden has been a little bit since the rib injury. It just doesn't feel like their offense has been as explosive, whether that's him running or taking, deeper shots down the field, being explosive. I know he threw the Hail Mary, I get it. Like, I know that. But the numbers have not been as good since the rib injury, and I wonder if part of that is, them protecting him a little bit with the run game, maybe him protecting himself. I do think, defenses have done a better job of being ready for that, prepared for that. You kind of should be at this point, right? I mean, enough teams run kind of the zone read stuff, have the quarterback pull it, that I think you would think that they would always have a guy accounting for Daniels, which is fine, because that still opens things up for Eckler or Brian Robinson or whoever, just having someone have to account for Jaden.
And then, obviously, we get the news today that Brian Robinson is going to be back for Washington. The numbers are pretty remarkable in terms of success rate and pure yardage when B-Rob is playing versus when he's not. What do you see, especially with your expert as a former O-lineman, although I should say, once an O-lineman, always an O-lineman, with your O-line expertise, watching this run game with B-Rob versus without it and knowing that he's going to be back tomorrow night?
Well, first of all, I always think that's interesting, and I'm always a little bit surprised when a guy doesn't play on Sunday but then does play on Thursday. I think it speaks to, I guess, the importance of the game. Because a lot of times, you get to this point, if the guy wasn't able to play on Sunday, a lot of times, they won't play him in the Thursday night game because then he gets 10 more days. Then he's really back. I think it speaks to just how important they feel like B-Rob is in this game. And I would agree. It's really remarkable what the Eagles have done with their secondary. They drafted guys with their first 2 picks in Quinyon Mitchell in the first round and Cooper DeJean in the second round, and they're both really good already, which I feel like doesn't happen that often in the NFL, but you guys are kind of seeing it too with Sanders still. It's really, really impressive. They've been a huge upgrade. So I do think that's what I would do if I were the Commanders. I would try to attack the Eagles' run defense and see what you can get done there because they have been so good in the secondary. And I think Robinson, although I'm an Eckler fan, I always will be. I think he always finds a way to be productive. I would certainly try to mix and match those two guys and play a similar game to a couple of years ago. I called the Thursday night game, can't remember if it was Thursday night or Monday night game, a couple of years ago when, I mean, that's the best roster the Eagles have ever had in 22, maybe even the best team they've ever had. They didn't end up winning the Super Bowl. They made a couple mistakes, lost to the Chiefs. But the only game they lost that year before the Super Bowl where Hurts was the starting quarterback was that game against the Commanders a couple of years ago when they just pounded B-Rob and converted a bunch of third downs, and the Eagles never had the ball. So I think they'll probably try to go with a similar strategy.
Ross Tucker, our Odyssey Sports NFL insider, with us here on the Hoffman Show. And again, insider calls are brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. You can purchase Hellman's at your local Walmart, Kroger, or grocery store to add extra deliciousness and creamy flavor to your game day dishes this football season. Ross, this team, the Eagles, since their Week 5 bye, is undefeated. They've changed a bunch of stuff in terms of how much they're using press man. They're running more from the under center versus the gun. Offensively, defensively, they made real changes. Which to you is the most important thing, whether schematically or just attitudinally within that team, which seems way more functional than the dysfunction it had earlier this season of how they've been able to turn it around?
I think the two things that have jumped out to me is that unlike the first 4 weeks, Hurts just hasn't been turning it over. And that's made a gigantic difference on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't know that has anything to do with schematic as much as it has to do with him just taking care of the football, although he did have 2 turnovers Sunday against the Cowboys. Meanwhile, defensively, it's hard to know how much of it is just them having a better feel for Vic Fangio's scheme and having proper leverage and playing things the right way versus how much has just been the significant upgrade at nickel corner with Cooper DeJean. I mean, it's just such an important position, and Cooper DeJean has been fantastic. I mean, Avonte Maddox was a liability. Even last year, the other corner, I would say, and James Bradbury was a liability. Now these 2 rookies, Quinyon Mitchell has been playing the whole year, and Cooper DeJean, who they didn't insert into the lineup until after the bye, they've just made a big difference. I mean, like, Cooper DeJean's making tackles for losses against Jamar Chase on 4th and short. I mean, they've been very, very impressive. And so I think it's a combo of just more familiarity with Fangio's scheme, which is natural with new coordinators, but then also the personnel addition of DeJean. They went from a liability to a strength at one of the most important positions, especially when it comes down to, third downs, which is the money down. So often teams look to attack the slot. They look to attack that nickel corner, and DeJean has just been like nails.
I think that's a great point, and he has been unbelievable. I was reading some of the NFL Next Gen stats they put out, and I think DeJean has like the best success rate since week 6 on balls thrown his way in the league. It's like 76% or something like that. Absurd. And then Mitchell has been really good on the outside too, and he's been playing more press man than he did earlier in the season. And I'm curious what you think of the matchup between he and Terry McLaurin, because Mitchell always lines up at right corner, and Terry mostly lines up at left outside wide receiver, so those two will be matched up. Do you think that Vic Fangio is going to leave Mitchell one-on-one without help with McLaurin over there, or do you think that they'll be providing help and it's going to be on the Ecklers, the Noah Browns, the Luke McCaffreys, the Olamide Zacchaeuses of the world to try to make things happen outside of Terry?
Well, I think they'll change it up. As you know, you never do the same thing every play, but any Eagles fan would tell you that even if they don't have true 2 safeties deep and a safety over the top of Terry, they better at least have, whether it's Blankenship or Gardner Johnson, they better at least be heavily leaning that way, because McLaurin has absolutely murdered the Eagles over the years. He's such a good player. And quite frankly, when you look at the other guys, man, you got to make them beat you, right? I mean, I know Noah Brown does some positive things. Everybody loves Ertz for what he did in Philly. But in terms of actually guys that can make explosive plays and be the difference in the game, it seems like it would make a lot of sense to not let that be Scary Terry.
Definitely would. He is on a heater right now as well. Had over 100 yards again. A lot of it against Joey Porter Jr. on Sunday. Again, Ross will be on the call with Ian Eagle tomorrow night here. Not on the Team 980. We unfortunately cannot carry that, although many of Westwood One's NFL broadcasts you can hear. And we will have Ian on the show to get things started with us at 4 o'clock on Friday. Ross, always great to chat, man. Appreciate it. And it's going to be a fun one. Have a blast tomorrow night.
Thanks so much, Craig. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. That's Ross Tucker, our Odyssey Sports NFL insider, and his appearances are brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. May your game day be delicious. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, let's react to some of what Ross had to say as we continue to preview this Commanders-Eagles Thursday Night Football showdown. And then coming up at 5:30, it is Competition Wednesday. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. We're going to make a quick left turn in response to something that is happening here locally in multiple senses. And I guess it's in all senses because it's happening locally because it's happening locally. We're going to pay attention to a senator from Montana, again, Steve Daines, who is, for some reason, taking on the hobby horse of the Commander's name and logo as his own thing in a political stunt where he is claiming to represent constituents of his. And I will remind everybody before we hear from Steve Daines, who just spoke about this on the Senate floor, something that is happening literally a mile and a half from us where I sit right now in the District of Columbia, that if the team was looking to build a new stadium in Maryland or Virginia, Steve Daines' opinion on the matter wouldn't matter at all. This is only happening because the Commanders are trying to get back the ability to play at RFK Stadium, something that the team wants, something that the city would like to explore. Should be up to the citizens of the District of Columbia to make this decision for themselves. We are adults in this city. We pay taxes. We are citizens of a local jurisdiction just like anywhere else, except for the part where we're not a state. And for some reason, a senator from Montana gets to get up on the Senate floor. And Anthony, do we have what Mr. Daines had to say? Say stuff like this.
And I've got to tell you, the censorship of honorable Native imagery certainly does not promote diversity, equity, or inclusion. And let me be clear. For anyone who's been following this issue for the past few months knows this. I am not calling for the return of the former team name. Let me say that again, because there's folks who twist this. I am not calling for the return of the former team name, which had become increasingly controversial, especially in Indian country. But unlike the former name, the logo was rarely a subject of controversy, and in fact was never alleged to be disparaging during the trademark disputes against the team that spanned many years. And while some individuals might object to teams featuring any tribal imagery, however honorable and realistic, there's no doubt in my mind that the overwhelming majority of fans in Indian country and beyond believe that Washington's former logo is honorable and it's a point of pride.
Oh boy. How far down this do I really want to go? I got a couple things I want to say here about Steve Daines. First of all, leave us alone. First and foremost, above all, cannot stress this enough. Leave this alone. We have a lot of issues in the world right now. Serious problems that need to be solved. And without getting too deep into the politics of everything, especially the week after the election, ultimately, putting my political analyst hat on right now, the country decided, whether you agree with what happened or not, and I am not going to get into where I stand on that because this is a sports radio show and I don't feel like getting fired today. But the country voted predominantly because they wanted things fixed. No matter who you think had the better solutions, there is no doubt that all over this country, Americans feel like there are real problems to be solved. And by the way, that is not something that is just limited to America. Arguably, the biggest factor in the presidential election was merely incumbency, and that follows a trend that is literally every country in the world right now. Every organized democracy in the world that has had an election in the last few years has booted out the incumbent candidate. Why? Because there are real problems with the current state of global affairs, global economy, it's foreign policy, the way countries interact, the way things are at home in all of these different countries. Latin America, there are 20 new governments in like the last 2 years? Because people all over the world are upset about real things that affect their lives on a daily basis. In the United States election and exit polls, over 70% of Americans said they feel some type of financial hardship due to inflation over the last bunch of years. Again, a result of a global economy that post-COVID is still very much recovering and many people feel was not working beforehand. And that is a symptom of things that many administrations have done, both parties, over time. And this clown is on the Senate floor a week after that election talking about a football team logo for a team that plays 2,000 miles from his home state. I cannot stress enough, Steve Daines, leave us the hell alone. But if you want to play this game, we can play this game. Because you, sir, a Republican senator, and again, if you agree with Steve Daines on what I'm about to talk about, okay, that's a different conversation for a different time. But the Republican Party in this country has demonized DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Things that, in my personal opinion, should be fundamental things that we believe in based off what the founding fathers said 200, 300 years ago. Hey, every man created equal. That whole deal, every man created equal, and man in that case is actually gender neutral. Everyone created equal is a thing that, as a goal statement of the United States, is something that I think most of us would agree with. How we accomplish that and what DEI means practically is a bit more controversial. And again, that's a different show. But the idea that you would have the gall on this topic, a football team logo, to invoke DEI when you have demonized DEI and your party has demonized DEI at every turn is so politically hackish that it would be embarrassing, except for it appears, Steve Daines, that you are not capable of embarrassment. And again, if you don't believe in DEI as a political stance, as a policy theory, fine, then don't believe in it. But then you don't get to come on the Senate floor and use it when it's convenient for you. You're full of crap, man. You're in the way of something that could generate potentially billions of tax dollars for this city, a city that desperately needs it for education, a city that desperately needs it for housing assistance, because so much of our land is controlled by the federal government that it is hard to build in D.C. You're in the way. And look, there are economists that say stadiums are actually bad and that you shouldn't invest. Fine, but that's not the argument you're making. You're making a specific argument about a logo for a team name that doesn't even exist anymore. You said it yourself.
We are the Commanders.
Okay, Doug Williams said that.
We are the Commanders.
But they are the Commanders. They're not the old team name anymore. So why do you want the logo back outside of being a political hobby horse playing these stupid political games like the silly political hack that you either are acting like or it very much seems like are? Like, cannot stress enough, leave us alone. What is wrong with you? Solve the problems that the people who elected you here are actually striving for the government to be of assistance in solving. And stop wasting your time on this so that you can hold up land in our city that you don't care about and you wouldn't have control over if it was literally 5 miles in any direction. Freaking hack. It's garbage. Hate it so much. Hate it so much. Cannot stress how absurd it is, how embarrassing it is, and yet here you are on the Senate floor just embarrassing yourself word after word, sentence after sentence. Great job, Steve. Fantastic work. Thank God we have Competition Wednesday next because that's fun. That's right. I said we're having fun next. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. And Anthony, I did go into the YouTube chat after our last segment because I'm like, if I light a politician on fire, what's the chat going to look like? And it wasn't, you would think like some people would be like really mad. Some people would be like, you don't get it, blah, blah, blah. Nope. 100% approval rating from people who seem to have voted for both people in last week's presidential election. But we did it! We found bipartisanship in Washington, everybody. We all hate Steve Daines for doing this stupid political stunt on the Commanders logo. Congratulations to us.
You love to see it, man.
Shameless hack. Drives me. I should stop before I get going again. It's Competition Wednesday here on the Hoffman Show. And that means we go head-to-head on 3 games, and we pick them against the spread. And if we need a tiebreaker, Anthony and I pick the same game and take opposite sides. So we have ensured ourselves that there will be no ties. And Anthony, I just got to say before we get started here, when I picked the games on Monday, last week, first impression selection show, because the Rams lost, I went, I believe, 9-4 on the week. So by that math, you would think that the chances for you were not good. Nope. However, one of the games I think I picked for Wednesday was the Rams. So I only missed 4 games. I'm pretty sure that I missed at least one of those 4 is on my list here. So Anthony, there's a chance that wheel of mediocre punishment that sits behind you is coming on over to the Hoffman side of this production.
Yeah, I don't think I did good, though.
There's only one way to find out.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, the results of Competition Wednesday. The first game I picked last week was the New England Patriots to cover a 6.5-point spread against the Chicago Bears.
What did they do?
Well, Anthony, they won the football game outright, straight up. Smoked them by 16. Could have been plus 6.5 or minus 6.5. It was plus 6.5. It's 1-0 for your boy. CH 1-0.
I don't know what it is, man. You keep predicting the upsets, man.
Hey, that's the thing. You got to get the points. The points on your side is better than the points not on your side. So your next game, or your first game, was actually the Washington game. Pittsburgh, when we picked it on Wednesday, was 2.5-point dogs. Well, Anthony, they won the football game.
And I picked Pittsburgh, right?
You picked Pittsburgh.
I was hoping I was going to be wrong. If we would have kicked the field goal, I still would have been right?
Yeah, if they won by 2, that would have been what I predicted, which is Pittsburgh covers, Washington wins.
Yes.
But you doesn't matter about the result for the purposes of the Competition Wednesday in terms of the game. It matters the gambling scoreboard, which had Pittsburgh plus 2.5 to start, and Pittsburgh plus even more than that by the end because they went outright. Next up, this was a close one for me, but I got it done because I do believe the final in the Minnesota-Jacksonville game was 12-7, which is 5.
And the hook.
I had Minnesota minus 4.
Oh, what?
It wasn't even 4.5. It was a straight 4.
Dang.
And so that is 2-0 for me.
I thought you got the Rams game wrong.
So far, well, we'll get to the Rams game.
Oh,
the Rams game. I will ultimately, yes, spoiler alert, I will go 2-1.
Okay.
I still don't know about you yet.
I don't either.
This one's good for you. And you were Philadelphia minus 7. Big number.
Let's go, man. 2-0, baby. Let's go.
2-0 because they won by 1 million.
Yeah, they put belt to butt.
They put belt to butt. Jerry is like, I don't know. Curtains. I don't know why I just did Jerry Jones impression that way. The point is, it was a real bad day for the Dallas Cowboys.
Man.
It was the worst day for the Los Angeles Rams because they're at least supposed to be good. They just kept shooting themselves in the foot. This game was a 1-point spread. I just needed LA to win.
Yeah,
and I would at least get a push. They didn't. That's 2-1. Anthony, the last game for you
I think I know what it is.
was Detroit, Houston.
I didn't have Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions, man. I just didn't.
Neither did I.
And had he not,
Sucks for you. But it especially sucks for you, Anthony. This game was 26-23. Earlier in the week, it was -3. By the time you picked it, it was 3.5.
Are you serious?
100% serious.
I could have at least got a push.
You would have had a push, which would have meant that we didn't need the tiebreaker. However, Anthony, I have bad news for you. We need the tiebreaker.
What was the tiebreaker?
Do you know, you don't remember which game was the tiebreaker?
Was it the 49ers game?
It was not.
Was it the Ravens-Bengals?
Nope.
Who was it? Cardinals.
Nope. It was the Carolina Panthers and the New York Giants in Germany. Dankeschön, Carolina Panthers. I had the Panthers plus 6.5.
This isn't the life I deserve, dog. Oh, my gosh. Are you serious?
It's right here written down. It is right here written down in the spreadsheet.
Let me go check.
It's in the first impression selection spreadsheet. I got a separate column for us over to the side.
Oh, my God. Week 10.
That was, by the
NFL
way.
scoreboard.
Yep. Check it. Yeah, I mean, just double check it to make sure. Make sure that I didn't.
Which game was it?
It was the Carolina.
No, not the Carolina. The one, my third game.
Detroit, Houston. And it was -3.5.
I'm about to cry, man. This is insane.
So that is a victory for me.
Oh my
for the
gosh.
5th week in a row.
This can't be serious. This can't be real.
You currently owe the show 2 ice baths.
Sadly I do. I do indeed, Craig.
Yeah. So
Dang.
behind you, Anthony, is the wheel of mediocre punishment. We still have not replaced the
fantasy
football sub on it. I'll put it back on the board for you this week.
Okay.
I will say that you are eligible for me to sub someone out on your fantasy team.
That's okay.
So I'm going to need you to bring that wheel over and give that sucker a spin as a reminder as Anthony sets up the wheel and brings it on over into frame. There's a fantasy sub where I get to make a sub on Anthony's fantasy football team. There is 100 push-ups, which must be done before 6 o'clock. There is an ice bath, which really at this point we should take off because also, like, you already owe the show 2, and we have to go do that. There's buying the other person on the show lunch, and then there is also a costume show where you have to wear a classic disguise, the glasses and fake mustache with the goofy-looking nose for at least part of the show. I believe that's all the punishments, Anthony. Oh, also hot wings. You have to eat 5 hot wings. Not extra hot, not like Da Bomb level on hot ones, but somewhere south of Da Bomb. Anthony, are you ready to spin the wheel? You're so experienced at it.
I am.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's make sure that we're ready. All right, Anthony, spin the wheel. It's still spinning, and it has landed on lunch. Yeah! I get lunch on Anthony Haney, baby. Love that.
I'll take it.
I think the best one for show content on the ice bath is going to be funny. The push-ups were also really good. I'm a little sad that you haven't had to do the 100 push-ups yet.
I'm glad I didn't have to do it today. I did chest day today, and I'm a little tight up
sore?
in here. Yeah.
I would have let you do it tomorrow.
Oh, no, I would have knocked him out today.
Okay.
I would have got the job done for sure.
I mean, who could doubt you? On that front. On your picks,
Oh, my gosh.
Here's the thing. I am at the point where I feel bad for you.
You feel bad for me.
I genuinely feel bad for you because you have gone the last couple of weeks 2-1, lost on a tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last week you at least went 1-2. But the week before, you went, I guess you went 0-3. The week before, though, you went 2-1. And the week before that, you went 2-1. So you've had, during this stretch, a bunch of really good performances. Just, I've been a little bit better.
Yeah, good, but just not good enough. And just remember, Craig, you were making fun of me. The last time I did that, I went, what is this, week 5?
Yeah.
Of me spinning the wheel? I went 5 straight weeks of losing, so.
I don't know. I'm starting to think
It
that
might
might not have
be
had
due.
something to do with the making fun of, and it might have had something to do with the capabilities of picking games of the people involved.
Possibly. Oh my gosh.
Well,
a push would have saved me.
Push would have saved you, but alas, that hook, that 3.5, it's killer.
It's all good.
It's killer. You ready to try again? You don't really have a choice, so.
Yeah.
We will pick 3 more games plus a tiebreaker next, and then we get back to Commanders-Eagles at 6 o'clock. Will Commanders-Eagles be amongst our picks? We'll find out next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. All right, let's dive into it on a Competition Wednesday. Yeah, it's still Competition Wednesday, even though the week is short. I don't know if it actually is for the Commanders in Ashburn, but it is for us. And we're going to see about the 3 games that Anthony and I are going to pick. Again, we'll pick a 4th game head-to-head against the spread. We are technically allowed to pick the same game if we feel really strongly. However, we have never actually done it. Anthony, I am first up again because that is the nature of things. Let's see. What game do I want to start with? Was there any? This was a weird week, or a weird week of picking games. There's a bunch of big numbers, but not quite as big as there has been, with the exception of Jacksonville, Detroit. And Tony and I were actually on different sides of a lot of games this week, to the point that I really don't know where I want to start. I'm not going to forfeit my first uppance here, but I'm going to buy into the free fall theory. I'm going to pick the Packers over the Bears. It's a 5-point spread. I know that they might be a boost from the Bears firing their offensive coordinator. It can't get worse. That team is talented. They'll probably be a little more focused offensively, but some of the problems they have, they certainly can't fix in a week. Some of it they can because it's play calling and, you know, how you use certain guys and just like install the offense differently. Hey, Rome, you're going to be over here. DJ, you're going to be over here. All right, we're going to call the screens to DJ more. We're going to do not put Keenan Allen in a position to block as much. Like, there's stuff you can do pretty instantly, but I also just think the morale in that building is crap. And I think that Green Bay coming off the bye hopefully can freshen up. This game started to open the week at -6. It's down to 5 with the coordinator change. I'm still going to take Green Bay -5.
I like that game. Dang.
It's a hard week.
It is a hard week. But I think I'm gonna start with tomorrow night's game.
Oh.
I said this on Monday, I think, or Tuesday, or maybe even today. But I think the Eagles are going to win this game tomorrow. And I like the Eagles plus the points.
So you got Eagles
minus the points.
minus 3.5 here. So you got that nasty hook again.
It definitely is concerning. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little hesitant, but I think the Eagles are gonna get the job done. But I'm praying I'm wrong. I'm praying the Commanders go out there and win the game.
It's so funny. What happens if I go 3-0, you go 2-1, and that's the loss? Will you be happy next Wednesday? I'll tell you what, Anthony, I'm going to cut you a deal in the spirit of competition here.
Oh, my gosh.
If I go 3-0, it has to be 3-0. If I go 2-1 and you go 1-2 and you lose by a game, it literally has to be. If I go 3-0 and you go 2-1 and this loss is the loss, we shake hands, no one spins the wheel. Or we go to the tiebreaker.
We go to the tiebreaker.
Okay, we go to the tiebreaker. So I'm essentially giving you a pick of immunity here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Because I think it takes gumption to get on the radio here in D.C. and go, yeah, I'm going to pick against the Commanders.
Yep.
Especially in a division game.
Yep.
Especially in prime time.
That's me.
But I also respect it. I respect it. Next up. God, I hate these games this week.
Yeah, they stink.
There's some actual good games. There's also some absolute crap-tastic football. I'm going to take, let me double check and see what this number has gotten to as the week has gone on here. Please tell me it moved in the direction I want it to. Yeah, it did. Sweet. The Baltimore Ravens opened as 3.5-point favorites over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Baltimore is real good. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are real good. I think the Ravens will win. I think there's a chance they win going away because of the explosiveness of what they can do offensively. Everyone will go, oh, well, they just were able to contain Jaden. Jaden had never seen that defense before. Lamar sees it twice a year. It's a different challenge. And so I am going to go, even though it's Baltimore at Pittsburgh.
You know, Lamar has I think Lamar has one win against Pittsburgh.
Lamar's playing the best football of his life. He also has Derrick Henry now.
You make 2 great points.
If the Steelers cover Lamar in the run game the way they covered Jaden, Derrick Henry's going to rush for 250 yards.
This one's interesting.
I'm going Baltimore -3 here.
I low-key want this to be the tiebreaker.
Okay.
I want to go with the Steelers.
Tiebreaker. All right, we're doing this out of order.
I'm going with the Steelers.
Tiebreaker.
And it's
CH
because
Baltimore -3.
Lamar doesn't win against the Steelers. Not often.
Okay.
I'm just going with the probability, man. I like Pittsburgh's probability here.
Probabilities are useful tools.
Yes.
The past is what it is. They're not always indicative of a future performance. That's all
You might be right, Craig. You might just be right.
that's all I'm going to say. Where did that game go then? Why can't I find the game that I want? This is terrible radio. Where's the... Is this game not on the board? What are we doing? There we go. Nope, that line jumped in a major way. All right, I'm going to go with one of the crap games. The Browns are visiting the Saints.
Yep.
The Saints are coming off a win. The Browns are coming off a loss the last time they played. This game... actually, no, it has stayed where it was. It is New Orleans -1. I'm going to take Cleveland in the point. Why? Because the Saints aren't good. The Browns aren't good either. But I get a point with Cleveland. And when the Saints all of a sudden feel better about themselves, it's a perfect time for them to go and get wrecked and lose a disappointing game at home. Give me the Browns. Why? I don't know. I feel dirty just saying that out loud. Give me the Browns. Never again. But sure, this week.
Yeah, you taking the Browns is definitely shocking, to say the least.
Actually, don't even want to. I kind of want to already change it. I'll let you pick. If the game that I want to change to is still on the board by the end, I'll switch it.
All right, game 2 for me, Battle of Texas. Texans, Cowboys.
Some battle this is.
I know I'm supposed to stay away from these points.
These big numbers?
Yeah, these big numbers, man. But, Craig, I can't help it. The Cowboys stink.
They sure do.
And I think Nico Collins comes back this week. I'm hoping he does because the Texans need him bad. But I'm going to take the Texans minus the 7.5.
Yeah, it's 7.5. That is a big, big number. But Tony and I both picked Houston as well in this game. I don't trust it enough to put it here, but I would 100% understand why you are doing it. The last game I'm going to go with, I literally hate all of these games. I hate it. I don't feel good about any. I feel like I said that last week too. And I'm kind of just taking some wild cards here, but Atlanta-Denver is a super wild card, and both these teams are incredibly inconsistent. I think Denver's probably I'm hoping they're a little high on their own supply after thinking that they should beat. We should have beat the Chiefs. We're a field goal away. Atlanta's like, we gotta fix everything because we lost a division game to New Orleans. Atlanta's a 2.5-point dog. I'll take the 2.5. Give me Atlanta.
I like that game too. Love that game. I think for my last pick though, Craig.
Don't take the one I want to switch out the other game with.
I think I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
Yes. I thought about this game
plus
too.
the 1.5 against the Chargers. I think this is a must-win for the Bengals. The Bengals still have a chance to, make some noise in the AFC. If they're gonna make any noise, they gotta win this game right here. Give me them Bengals plus 1.5. I hope they cover.
Yeah, that game is is really, really important for Cincinnati because they are a genuinely great offense with a pretty mediocre to, on a good day, to bad on most days defense. And if they can just figure it out to be average on defense, they would be dangerous in the playoffs. I'm switching the Cleveland game because the second I said give me the Browns, I just felt my body shudder with like an actual chill.
Understood.
I'm going to go with the Rams. They are 5-point favorites against the Patriots.
Yeah,
That started at 5.5, but then the Rams lost on Monday Night Football. So I'm going to go with the Rams, and that should say -5. It's an even 5. Am I seeing that right? You got -5 on that one?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so Rams -5 because I think the Patriots. I know what they did to the Bears. The Bears are terrible. The Rams are not the Bears. The Rams are going to win by a lot. All right, that's it. That's Competition Wednesday. Those are the picks. I'm actually off the radio show early next week, but I think I'm going to check in on Wednesday for Competition Wednesday purposes. So we'll get to it again Wednesday at 5:30. When we get back, it is time for our Pick 6 at 6. You'll hear from Dan Quinn ahead of Eagles Commanders tomorrow night. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. You missed Ross Tucker, Odyssey Sports NFL Insider, with us an hour ago. You can hit the rewind button in the Odyssey app. You can also check it out on the Hoffman Show podcast. Just search the Hoffman Show wherever you get your podcasts. And then that's the Hoffman Show. You know how podcasts work. Cool. You also, at this point, probably know how this works. Biggest Commanders storylines of the day at 6 o'clock. Let's get to it.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level and build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
All right, we got injury news. We got captains. We got a Brian Robinson update. We got so many things. Injury news is where we'll start in multiple parts with
Number 1.
because that's what comes first when they taught us how to count in school. All right, who's out?
That will be Ballore, linebacker Nick Ballore, cornerback Marshon Lattimore, and kicker Austin Seibert. All the rest of the guys practiced, and we'll huddle up tonight and see how they do. But those are the three that won't play, ruling them out today.
All right, so no Nick Ballore hurts the special teams, though they have guys that can come in and play. Like you probably activate Derek Forrest, even though obviously that leaves you a little thin at linebacker. All your linebackers are active anyway, so you just put Derek Forrest in there instead of having him inactive. You put him in Ballore's spot, and your special teams operates relatively unchanged, although Ballore's the better player. Defoe's a good special teams player. He's fast, he's physical, all that kind of stuff, but Nick Ballore's like a pretty special teams player, and you're going to be down one of those guys. So that's what you do there. Zane Gonzalez will kick, and then obviously Marshon Lattimore affects you in a much, much more significant way. If Marshon Lattimore was playing, I think that you can play some man coverage on the back end, and you can try to up your pressure packages. With where they're at corner, and with the extraordinary talent on the Philadelphia Eagles roster, I am playing a ton of soft coverage structures. I'm if you want to do some bump and run type of stuff in cover 2, fine. Like to mix it up in terms of not just totally soft, but like structure-wise. A lot of cover 2, a lot of quarters, a lot of cover 6, where you're 2 on one side, 4 on the other. I want multiple players deep. I never want my corners in man-to-man situations with no safety help. I'm not playing cover 1 where I have a deep safety, playing center field that really can't get to either sideline unless it's a bad ball. I'm not playing cover 0 where it's straight man-to-man across the board and we're blitzing everybody else. Like we're not playing cover 3 where, he's responsible for a deep third. It's basically the way they're going to run some of the route concepts and run the route combinations that turns into a man-to-man situation real quick. Not doing that with any regularity. I'm certainly not doing it in big spots. I know they want to blitz. I know they want to pressure. But please, for the love of winning football, do not leave these corners, any of them, not just Juice, Sainer Still, Igbenogany, one-on-one with Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown. Because if it becomes isolation basketball, then the Eagles win. If it becomes a team game, now Jalen Hurts is much, much less effective. Those receivers, while still good, are less effective, less dangerous, less likely. It's really less likely to pop the big one, even if they're still good. You're going to give up yards. It's going to be painful. You're going to bend. Just don't break. And don't break easy. And if Marshon Lattimore was there, that'd be a potentially different story. But he's not. It's why they traded for him. We're going to have some patience on that front, and we'll see if he's ready to go for Dallas 11 days from now, 10 days from tomorrow.
Number 2.
So that's the bad news. The good news is Brian Robinson is back. How's he look this week, Dan Quinn?
Yeah, today was the day to get speed, and so that was good sign to see him and the rest of his teammates really get running. It was a kind of a ramp up, John, as you go. Think of a slower on Monday, a little faster yesterday, but today's the day you hit the marks to go up, and so he did a good job with that.
Good to hear, and that's really what you want for a hamstring injury. Sports radio cap off, personal trainer, sports performance coach hat on. It's got to be a ramp because you have to kind of pass each test safely, and if you feel a little twinge, like, whoa, okay, the second you feel anything in that hamstring, stop. Because otherwise you're going to push it too far, you're going to re-injure it, and we got to start the clock over again. And so the fact that he was able to get up to speed, that's all they've been waiting for. That's why he's playing. He couldn't pass that test leading into Sunday's game. He couldn't even pass it last Friday. But they get it to the point that he's good to go. He said yesterday that he felt really good. And so now I don't know that he'll have a full load because they still need to probably manage exactly how many carries he gets. But depending on how much he gets out into the open field and opens up, like they'll be, if they're smart, which I'm sure they are, like, and they have access to this stuff during the game, like you'd be tracking some of his GPS data, how much time does he spend at certain speeds. So hamstrings are very, very finicky. They're very, very particular. And just having Brian Robinson, even for the ability to get 12 carries, is so essential compared to having 0. It affects how the other team plays zone read. It affects how the other team obviously is facing yardage down and distance, because one thing that we didn't really talk about yesterday and Monday is the hidden yardage Brian Robinson gets. Same exact run. 2 yards Austin Eckler, B-Rob's able to fall forward. Difference between a 2nd and 8 and a 2nd and 7. And it doesn't sound like much, but if you run the ball again, and now same thing happens, and it's 2 3-yard games instead of 2 2-yard games, 3rd and 4 is very different than 3rd and 6. And the playbook and what becomes open. And so this hidden yardage of falling forward for an extra 1 2 yards here and there just keeps you out of some of these bad down and distances, and B-Rob back should let the hidden yardage add up.
Number 3
on the injury front, and we'll get to the non-injury stuff in just a little bit. But the other injuries to watch, all 3 of their top tackles, so Andrew Wiley, Cornelius Lucas, and Brandon Coleman, questionable for tomorrow. I would guess all 3 play, but Wiley and Lucas are the guys that missed last week, and Dan Quinn was asked how they're looking this week.
Yeah, they both had good work yesterday. We did kind of some individual, and then we got really more today at full speed. Not full speed, but enough where he could punch and go and be aggressive. And so Cornelius and Andrew both did a good job today.
So there's Dan Quinn on those guys. I can't stress enough how big it would be to get either one of them back to play right tackle. Wiley is obviously the best guy. And I know he was much maligned last year, and people have kind of come around and be like, oh, maybe the things that like Craig and Logan were saying about if you use him in the right ways and don't ask him to one-on-one pass protect all the time, he's a little bit better. And he's had his moments this year, losses, penalties, whatever. But you see it in that Pittsburgh game, the timing, the punch, the power, the pop, the mobility that he has versus Trent Scott. And you say, okay, Wiley is an above average run blocker and a solid enough pass blocker, where Trent Scott is below average at those things. And you see where it shows up in big spots. Watt getting some key pressures and hits late. Some of the run game stuff that just is not crisp and clean. The screen game being a mess, like that's definitely a part of it. So can they have those guys out there? Biotish is also banged up like crazy. Can't wait for him to get 10 days off. Just get him out of this game healthy. But it affects it because the mobility is not there. And the timing and the partnership with Sam Cosmi is not there. It's just not the same. So can they get Wiley back? If so, the execution should go up. Lucas to potentially spell Coleman, or if Wiley can't go, can he play right tackle? Like just having that piece. Good players are better. Better to have the better players. As simple as that. O-line, it's definitely true. And I think we saw that play out on Sunday, and hopefully we see an upgrade tomorrow night against Philly. When we get back, we will hear more from Dan Quinn as we wrap up our Pick 6 at 6, including his thoughts on what the Jahan Dotson trade is. They'll see Jahan tomorrow night wearing 83 for Philadelphia did for their roster and some of the guys who have gotten opportunities. Plus, why is Olamide Zaccheaus still getting a second chance as a punt returner? All of that next in our Pick 6 here on the Hoffman Show. But first, a look at the latest in the world of women's sports presented by Wawa. Gotta have a Wawa. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Our pal Dave Johnson joins us coming up at 6:30. And he's in San Antonio, where tonight the Wizards are going to take on the Spurs. Right now, though, we continue on with our Pick 6 at 6. 6 biggest Commander storylines of the day. And let's start off, actually, with a trade that was made between these two teams.
Number 4.
The Jahan Dotson trade. Anthony, should we play the Shane from Oxon Hill call again? No, we don't need to do that right now. Maybe if we have a little bit of extra time, but I want to try to stay on the clock and try to make sure that we have our full segment with Dave. The Jahan Dotson trade was a really critical juncture in the Commanders season. They kind of set the tone of like, hey, you either get on board with the program or you get out. And it's not about how you're playing in terms of the quality. It's about how you're going about your business. And it was pretty clear Jahan Dotson was not going about the business of being a Washington Commander in the way that the people in charge of the Washington Commanders wanted anymore. And so they said, hey, who wants Jahan Dotson? And Howie Roseman was like, we would like Jahan Dotson. And they gave him a third-round pick. That third-round pick kind of unlocks the extra draft capital that Adam Peters needs to go make the Marshon Lattimore trade, and we'll see how that ultimately plays out in the long term. Meanwhile, Dotson hasn't really done a whole lot for Philly, and the pick that was exchanged for him is that of the Miami Dolphins, who are not very good thanks to the Tua injury, and all of a sudden that pick looks like it's going to be a pretty good one in the third round, barring a second-half turnaround. That is possible from Miami. They got a pretty weak schedule, but we'll see. Certainly it seems like it's going to be no worse than, the middle of the third round. So how did that trade for Dotson shape what Dan Quinn and company are trying to build here in D.C.?
Well, I thought, number one, with Adam, we always said this best decisions, for the team at that time, Ben. And so whether that's, trade or whatever that looks like, that's going to be kind of the driving force behind it. As you guys know, we didn't really talk about who's the two in that. We had a big, deep crew at receiver. Now that you've seen, kind of how the guys are used and where we're at. But that was the best op for the team. And John did a great job. He was here with us, and look forward to seeing him.
Classy, as always, by Dan Quinn, but there was a reason why Jahan Dotson wasn't like, hey, Dan, who's your number one? It's Terry. Okay, who's your number two? Well, we move guys around. If you had a guy who was number two, then he'd be the number two. And alas, he is not. They have gone by this rotation thing. Noah Brown obviously comes in. So there was a plan. They found ways to continue to supplement. They continue to compete, to kind of use their terminology. But it certainly, I think, sent a message of, it's our way or the highway. And most people got on board pretty quick. The couple stragglers, not so much. And I don't know, Emmanuel Forbes is still here, but deal with that a different day.
Number 5.
One of the guys who's gotten more opportunities without Jahan in the picture is Olamide Zaccheaus. And his emergence in the preseason, I think, probably gave them even more confidence to allow Zaccheaus, or to allow the Dotson trade to happen. They knew they had Zaccheaus. Luke was coming on pretty well. Some of the other guys that were playing good ball, Jamison Crowder, he wound up getting hurt, but he was a factor. And obviously what he brings as a punt returner was something they were hoping to have, and still could if he can get back off of IR. But last couple weeks, Zaccheaus has had some muffed punts. He had one against Chicago. He had 2 last week. Obviously lost the one that cost them a touchdown, and that, as much as any other of 10 plays you want to pick, cost them the game. So why is Dan Quinn sticking with Olamide Zaccheaus as his punt returner? Why that second chance?
Well, I think you have to look at the whole body of work in terms of the work ethic, what you've seen before. And so, when you're going through it, you want to make sure there's not a pattern that comes up. And if that's the case, then it's somebody else's role to do that in punt return. But there's also a lot of work and trust that's been put into that. And so that's really where I look at it. And I'm at the top of everything, like protecting the team. And so that's where
That's where he sits. I think it's interesting for a guy that's muffed a couple punts to say, I'm protecting the team, but it also might mean that the other guys that when they said, hey, we're going to do punt catching today, does Sanders still drop him? Does Luke drop him? I don't know what the other options are, and he might ultimately be the best one. And, that's something that we've talked about with St. Juice at corner. We've talked about with some of these receivers, with, certain offensive linemen at times. There just are only so many good NFL players, and acquiring them is really hard. And so for a guy who is not the best at his position, it's saying that, hey, we don't have anything better is not endorsement of that player as the greatest of all time. I don't think they have any confusion that Olamide Zaccheaus is a punt returner who hasn't really done a ton as a punt returner this year, but he's been reliable outside the last couple weeks. But they don't think he's Dante Hall back there. Anthony, do you remember Dante Hall?
Number 82 for the Chiefs, one of the greatest and shiftiest punt returners to pick up a football. Oh.
You remember what whoa. You almost fell there. Your seat just gave out on you. Glad that was captured on camera for posterity.
Yeah.
You remember what his nickname was?
Nickname? I don't remember the nickname.
The Human Joystick.
That does sound familiar.
Pretty good. Pretty good nickname. They don't think he's Dante Hall back there. They don't think he's Devin Hester. But he's the best they got for right now. And if that changes with some more data, a.k.a. more fumbles or, too many balls caught inside the 5, then we'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Number 6.
Last but not least, a good question, ask a head coach a day before the game. Hey, Dan, what have you seen on film from the Eagles that they do well?
I'll start for their defense. I thought their 5 down fronts, the 4 down fronts, I thought safeties down when they're back, the disguise. I thought Coach Fangio does a very good job and has for a long time, Kendi, into that space. I love the aggressiveness of their corners, playing tight coverage onto people. So there'll be a lot of contested throws and contested throws and catches. The interior part of their guys, big guys with size and guys that can rip off the edge. So a good challenge that way. Offensively, I felt run game wise was similar to what we have seen. Their line coach and staff there has done a fantastic job through the years in the run game, and they've added an explosive player to the mix in Saquon. Kellen, I thought, added probably different, his flavor and elements to the drop back game to go. But the addition of Barkley has really been, as it's been proven, a big addition for them this year. Special teams wise, big place kicker, that can hit it from deep. So the field position for us is going to be a big deal in this game. That's where I think of them all the top, and known quantity, tough group. And so for us, heading up there, division game, it's really cool. We're pumped.
Should be a fun one tomorrow night. There's a lot of talent on that roster, and Kellen Moore's found some ways to get it going here, but it really is an offense that does rely on Saquon Barkley getting them going with some big plays in the run game, and he has been able to do that pretty consistently. If Washington can shut that down, it certainly feels like they've got a great shot to pull the upset tomorrow night. But again, roster-wise, no doubt, Eagles have the better players up and down, but Washington has done better at using their players better to their 7-3 record. Philly 7-2 on a 5-game winning streak. We'll be talking about it not only for the rest of the show today, outside of Next with Dave Johnson. We're talking about the Wizards and Spurs tonight here on your home for the Wizards, the Team 980, but all day tomorrow starting at 4 o'clock. That is our Pick 6 at 6. Biggest storylines of the day. Tomorrow we'll pick the 6 players that we think will be most impactful in the game at 6 o'clock, so stay tuned or be tuned in for that. But next on your home for Wizards basketball, the one and only legend Dave Johnson joins us. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Your home for Washington Wizards basketball. Where tonight, 8 o'clock, you got Dave, you got Glenn, you got Alex Sarr, you got Jordan Poole, you got Wemby, as the Wizards are in San Antonio. And on a Wizards game day, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to bring on the one and only Dave Johnson.
Right corner, Kismet open for three. It's there.
Time to get the radio party started.
Feeds now, the right block of Sarr, slam.
It's time for Dave Johnson on a Wizards game day.
Blocked by Coulibaly. Left wing George, 3 on the clock for three. It's there.
Feel like busting loose, busting loose.
Crossover, step back three. Oh, Jordan Poole, you are cool.
I feel like busting loose now.
On the Hoffman Show.
To San Antonio we go. It is where we find Dave. Dave, hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. And, buzz in the building tonight is, Victor Wembanyama, Alex Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly. We are in Texas, but definitely a French flavor to this game.
No doubt about it. You might even say. I got to say, Dave, when we've created the open for you, we have never substituted in and out highlights. We've kind of just set them. We've gotten lucky in some ways that some of the players that we've selected have not been traded during the season with the amount of trades the Wizards have pulled off the last couple of years when we've been doing this. I might have to change scope on that. On the highlights of Wizards plays you have called over the years, how good was the Coulibaly left-handed dunk in Orlando the other night? I know we're rewinding a couple of days, but that is one of the best, most exciting plays the Wizards seemingly have had in years. Just an unbelievable play. How excited were you, and where do you think that one ranks on the highlight reel?
Well, it's up there, certainly. I mean, first of all, it was early in the game. It just came out of nowhere, and it was with his left hand. As we described it, it's the dunk of the week, as you can find it on the Wizards social media channels. I've shared it as it was called on Team 980. So, it also shows how you take a negative and turn it into a positive. You remember he had a cast on his right wrist toward the end of last season. So what did that force him to do? Work out with his left hand. So it was his first ever left-handed dunk, and boy, it was a poster. And it was, and again, this is. That highlight is a part of, I think you are going to have to change that highlights because this is a season of discovery. We're going to continue, we're only 8 games in. That's it. Or 9, I forget. But whatever it is, it's not many. And the point is, we're just scratching the surface with the rookies, certainly, and even with Bilal Coulibaly, who's in his second year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's obviously so much focus on these young players. Last night, or last time out, I should say, against Houston, I thought it was an interesting learning experience for Alex Sarr. He goes against Alperen Şengün, who, if you don't know, is one of the best young players in the NBA himself. The Rockets just signed him to like a 5-year, $200 million extension. He's fantastic. Sarr learned that the hard way. 27-17, and just a wide array of moves. And Alex is having this historic start through these first 9 games of turning block numbers, and he's doing a lot of really great things. What do you think he took out of that, facing one of the most skilled post players in the NBA the other night, that he can, work into his game and his knowledge base moving forward as he continues to build his defensive arsenal?
Well, welcome to the NBA. And Alex Sarr knew this was going to happen. And look, it happened to him basically also Friday when we were in Memphis with Jaren Jackson. There's a reason why you don't win and go to the playoffs and go to the finals with a cast of rookies. Why it takes time to develop. I think we talked about Steph Curry talked about it was his 5th year until he made the playoffs. So, and I'm not saying we're on a 5-year plan. What I'm saying is you have some moments, and we're gonna have moments with this team, certainly with individual players like Alex Sarr, and you're thinking, wow, he can do that and he can do this, and he's arrived. Well, not yet, because then you have moments like Monday night at Alperen Şengün, who is, what he gets at how the challenge of defending him is his footwork. There's so much of basketball, you forget that footwork is a big part of it, and so he's going to have to learn. I can't bite for the fakes. My footwork defensively has to match Alperen Şengün, whoever I'm defending, because that's how they're going to beat me. Because when you think about it, if you're everyone's at that position is basically the same size. So what's going to be the difference? It's going to be the who wins the battle of wits. Whether as a defender you make the right decision, or whether the offensive attacking player you make the right decision. That's what it comes down to. And how do you get better at making instantaneous decisions? Repetition. There's no excuse for that, and there's no way to manufacture and practice. And it's why we keep talking about it, a broken record, but Bilal Coulibaly every night, basically, no matter what the position is, aside from center, he's guarding the toughest scorer on the other team. That is paying dividends now, but is really going to pay dividends down the road.
Dave Johnson, play-by-play for the Washington Wizards here on the Team 980. I meant that both ways. He's the play-by-play man for the Wizards. The games are here on the Team 980. He's also with us on the Team 980. So, Dave, I thought one of the other interesting things from the other night, Kyle comes back. He leads the team in shots. A lot of the offense in some key moments goes through him. So, and sometimes, he kept them afloat and kept them in the game. So this is not meant to be critical of Kyle in any way, just inquisitive of kind of what the talk is around the team, what Brian Keefe has to say. You have this balance of wanting to make sure that you have enough on the young guys' plates that they're developing. Kyle and Jordan and Corey Kispert are going to take some off of their plates so that they're not overloaded. How does the team and Brian Keefe and the staff feel about how that balance is with Kuz back in the lineup now?
Well, look, the Wizards, of course, have 2 wins this season, both oddly enough against the Atlanta Hawks. But, the first win was on the road when Kuzma got hurt, and it was his play primarily that really led the charge back, and the Wizards secured that win in Atlanta. He will help in so many ways just being on the court. Yeah, he missed his first 6 shots last night. He's coming back from, multiple games out, and he had to get in a rhythm. Corey Kispert, if we're going to be successful, is got to find his stroke, and, he's going to take some shots. So it's you look at the game the other night, and in some metrics, the Wizards should have been blown right out of Houston. I mean, they were dominated on the boards. The good news is for the Wizards, they're making other teams miss. The bad news is they're not getting a rebound. Other teams are getting second chances. But the way they contested and competed, Rockets are a low turnover team. They forced the Rockets into a lot of turnovers the other night. It was a 6-point game in the fourth quarter. So then it comes down to this: we can X and O till we're blue in the face. You got to make shots. And the Wizards have not made key shots at critical moments, and the opposition has. I mean, in that case, the Rockets pull away and get the win. And that's been a script or a narrative that pretty much, in every loss, it's Draymond Green and Steph Curry saying, they never gave up. They were right there. We didn't let our starters rest, but they don't have enough to close. And rebounding is closing possessions, and that'll help you close games. And, that's going to be a challenge tonight against a Spurs team that, by the way, is trying to get to 500. And, Victor Wembanyama, now in his second year, is showing that, there is a big difference from the second year to the first year.
No doubt. And I was going to ask you about Wemby to close here. You've now called a couple of his games back last year. You're about to call another one tonight. He is clearly just a different caliber of special young player. When you first saw him and you first really got to see him on the floor last year calling a game, what do you remember about that? What will you always remember about young Victor Wembanyama as we continue to watch his career blossom?
Well, my thought, I remember at the time, was he belongs in the NBA. Not only does he belong, he'll be a generational player. And that's like, oh, wow, Dave Johnson just stated the obvious. Well, no, it's not obvious. In many ways, he's coming from Europe. The jump from Europe to the NBA is just as big, if not, well, certainly just as big as a jump from college to the NBA. Again, billions of people on the planet, only 500 NBA players. You can do the math. It's off the charts. So just because he had success and he was doing things in the EuroLeague in France, doesn't necessarily automatically mean he's going to be able to translate that to the NBA. But it was clear from the start of last season, what, he belongs, and all this talk about him being a generational player is true, because everyone's athletic to some degree in this league. Everyone's got some level of speed, size, whatever metric you want to use. But then it takes the basketball IQ to take you to that next level and become a player that people are going to talk about for decades. And Victor Wembanyama is on his way to doing that.
He's got a great mentor alongside him this year. Chris Paul, if people forgot, is playing for San Antonio, is playing well, averaging over 8 assists a game. Should be a fun one, a great challenge for Bub Carrington and those guards tonight. Dave will be on the call coming up. 8 o'clock tip time, 8 o'clock pregame. 8 o'clock pregame, 8:15 tip, right?
Right. Well, actually, 7:45 pregame, 8:10 tip to be exact. But, 7:45 will get you going. And we also have a conversation with Jonas Valanciunas.
Nice.
Our veteran who's trying to guide this team. So, look, the Wizards, this is a fun team this year. They're going to fight. They're going to compete. Is this the night they stop the 5-game losing streak? You know, it'd be sweet if they did because it would continue a string of success, oddly enough, in San Antonio after we won a stretch from 1999 to 2022 not winning here. So it'd be nice to stay hot in San Antonio.
Hey, do that. And then, of course, it should be mentioned, everyone's best to Greg Popovich. Now been reported that he has been out a couple weeks here after suffering a mild stroke, but expect to make a full recovery. So, send our best if anyone will listen down there to Coach Pop, a true American treasure. And Dave, enjoy San Antonio, and we'll talk to you later in the week. From where the heck are you guys next? I can't even keep
Atlanta.
up.
Atlanta. Friday in Atlanta. We finally get to come home after that.
Excellent. Hey, Hawks on the schedule. Let's go. Let's party. Dave,
right.
Thanks, man, and we'll talk to you on Friday. That's Dave Johnson with us, everybody, here on the Hoffman Show. Again, about an hour from now, pregame gets started here on the Team 980. We got what do we got next? Terps talk, Coach Locks? Oh, no, that's tomorrow. We got BetMGM tonight in between tonight. Yeah. Anthony just gave me the thumbs up finger point deal. Yep. Yeah. Good job. All right. Anyway, that's that. This is this, and then coming up next, it'll be real things, real people said in real microphones. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free, he said, Odyssey app. We're on Instagram, or I'm on Instagram, at Hoffman Sports, where you can vote on our latest poll, Anthony, based off this exchange that we had on Monday's show.
When Warren fumbled on the 1 yard line, prior to that, they had run 14 plays, taking off 7 minutes of clock just because they were running, converting on third down. And that's also another thing. We could not get off the field on third down. 7 for 16, unacceptable. When they had to score, they went to their bread and butter, and we had no answer for it.
See, I don't know that I agree with that. I still agree with me on Monday. I don't know that I agree with that. But I will say, when the content team, which as a very vague term that I'm going to use, we don't have a very giant team. But the content team, whoever it is in mystery land of the internet that cuts my reels and my YouTube shorts, cut it. I think they agree with you, because that the way that the video that we posted up on Instagram is cut, a lot of your argument, not a lot of mine. So I had to type mine out in the caption when I posted it.
To be honest, I don't even think my full point was captured, just because I feel as though we put so many resources into stopping the run because of how bad we were, that it opens up those outside opportunities for our
Those were outside because they were blitzing on passing downs, not because they were trying to stop the run.
Well, hey, look, well, that's you. But I do think we have an extra safety in the box. We have 8 people in the box a lot of the time, though, correct?
No, they have 7 in the box, and they play with 3 safeties.
Okay.
It's 2 linebackers, 4 defensive linemen, and 1 safety. That's 7.
Oh, that is 7. Hey, look, sometimes we do have 8, though.
Sometimes. So does every team.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, if you want to vote on our little Instagram
vote for
poll,
me.
Anthony's currently leading. So if you think that they have bigger, there's only been like 8 votes. Relax.
Okay, all right.
The results are early. But if you wanna vote in our poll at Hoffman.sports on Instagram, do you think the Commanders have bigger problems, or do you think that this is one of their biggest issues, the run defense? You can hit us up on the socials. Tomorrow on the show, it's Commanders, Eagles all day, all show. Getting ready for it. You'll hear from Logan. Who else do we got? Do we have? Whoa, Anthony's very intense right now.
I was excited.
I see that. I just wasn't prepared. I was like looking over here, checking a note, and I looked up, and your face is on the screen in the camera, like, yeah! And I was like, whoa!
It's game day, baby. Prime time television.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Do we have anybody else locked in? I know we're working on a bunch of stuff.
We have Logan Paulson.
We have Logan on the show for sure.
We have Chris.
Russell's gonna join us from Philly at 6:30.
Yep.
So talk about a Philly special. Hey. Anybody else that we got locked in? I know we're working on a couple things.
Yeah, we need to figure out.
Got a couple of things in the works. We got to circle back with
Yep.
and then we got to check in with.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and did you?
Yeah.
What
You're talking about? Yeah. Okay,
that's a
got
good
you.
idea.
Got you.
No, we gotta definitely circle up on that. So that's tomorrow's show. Friday we start the show at 4:00 with Ian Eagle, who's calling it tomorrow night for Westwood One. Of course, he called the Commanders game on Sunday on CBS. He's got the radio call tomorrow night. As for how we wrap up this show, it's the way we wrap up basically every show.
Real things.
We're not going to suck this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
Alrighty. We got about a minute left of the show, which is enough time to play this. Steph Curry welcomed Klay Thompson back last night to the Bay, along with about 20,000 people in captain's hats. Very, very cool scene.
It was a memorable night for sure. I know even from July when Klay decided to go to Dallas to, us showing up for training camp and him not being here, it was kind of like a slow build to this night for everybody because it's such a different look for us, Klay in a new uniform. And granted, we won, so I can say this, but I couldn't imagine it going any other way where, he played well, the crowd, got an amazing show, went down to the wire. You can't really draw it up any better, and definitely special, memories to reflect on, 13 years he was here and the 4 championships and everything that we accomplished, and then trying to turn the page to where we are right now.
What's up with like kind of the Halloween-y music in there?
I'm confused too. Like,
You're the one who put the bite in there.
What was the Warriors like? They did it.
It's almost like a little bit like I couldn't imagine it going another way. I killed him. Mwah. And boy, did Steph at the end, a Curry flurry. It was like, didn't like being on this end of it. We'll see you back here tomorrow.